Hi, I'm Lateesha, and I want to come on today and talk about the idea of fear as it relates to talking to and hearing from our ancestors. And I know for African American people in particular, that is, of course, that's the group of people that I know the best, as I am African American myself. I understand that most of the fear that we have around talking to our ancestors, hearing from our ancestors, the very idea of it brings fear in us. And that is because of the Bible teachings that we received. Now, I want to share some information. I want to talk about some things, and I want to talk about them from the standpoint of for those who are called to hear what I have to say. If you've been drawn to this particular video, I just want you to think. I want you to ask the question, could this be true? And ultimately, I want you to research for yourself what I am saying. Research it. And I think that that is one of the things that as African American people, typically we don't do. We let people tell us things and we just take it as facts. And when we do that, we give up our power. We give up our ability to rationalize. We give up our ability to work it out within ourselves, which that's what we've been trying to do. We've been trying to give over our power to something or someone that is outside of us. And that is the reason that our lives are in the state and the condition that they are in now. But I think about this idea. We come from people in Africa, rich in culture, rich in spiritual heritage. Our people, and not only our people, all indigenous people, from the Native Americans, which many of us have that as a part of our lineage, um, the Chinese, the Indian, it doesn't matter who the people are. Whether we go to South America, Mexico, anywhere in the world, you will find that the indigenous people, the first peoples of that land, were people who honored their ancestors. Um, they're the passing on of the traditions of the ancestors was so powerful, so healing, and it was something that helped the group of people together. Of course, we know that for us, this is something that we lost through slavery, through this horrible, horrible thing that happened to our people. So, what happened to us during slavery was that our traditions that we held dear, talking to the ancestors. Now, of course, later on, when slaves came over, many of them were of the Muslim tradition, and it depended on which part of Africa they were brought over from. But the multitude, the majority of the people who were caught up in the slave trade came from this rich spiritualism tradition, which enjoyed, which appreciated, which valued highly the opportunity and the privilege to commune with our ancestors. It's just like in the movie Black Panther. When we see He goes underground as a part of the ritual. He's covered with the dirt. He goes in, he talks to the ancestors. He gets the wisdom from the ancestors who have passed on. And that is what was taken from us. We lost more than we could ever tell. And we lost freedom of thought. We lost freedom of mind. We lost freedom of spirit. And we lost the connection with our ancestors through slavery. And it continues on today. And it is my absolute belief that if we could go back and grab this rich part of our heritage, I believe that that would be the source of the healing. I believe that we could there find the wisdom and the strength and the legacy that was stolen from us. It was a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant plan of the colonizers to push the idea of the Bible on us, because it is known that he who holds the pen holds the truth. He who holds the pen writes the future. He who holds the pen writes what is right. So I just, I go over it in my mind rationally. I think about what was going on when the Bible, of course, was canonized, meaning all of the books of the Bible were put together at the Council of Nicaea. Now, everything I'm saying, I want you to go and research it for yourself. Don't let me or anybody else tell you whatever it is without you researching it for yourself. Because you have a brain. Yeah. Source, God, spirit, universe, whatever you feel comfortable with saying, gave you a brain so you could use it. Research for yourself. Come to truth for yourself. Though painful it may be, and that I know from my own life. At the Council of Nicaea in 325, 318 bishops met together. And in a nutshell, they said, there are a lot of different people who have a lot of different writings. And this is something that we need to control so that we can control the people. And they came together and decided, here's a book that was written by Mary Magdalene. We don't want that. Take it out. Oh, here's a book written by Eli. We don't want that. Take it out. And of course, these were not actual books because they didn't have books like we know book today, but they were translations, copies of copies of copies, because there are no original texts found for any of the scriptures that are listed today in the Bible. So Constantine was in power at the time. And what Constantine wanted to do was to, again, have more control over the people. So you had the people who were practicing their spiritualism. They had the freedom to practice the religions that they wanted to. They were pagans. They were practicing all different types of God and goddess worship. And they were doing all of this freely and doing life. But one of the most powerful ways to control a people, history has taught us, is to control their God. Because it is the fear that people have of the afterlife, of not being here, that can be really played on to get a person to do what it is that you want them to do. That is the fastest way to imprison their minds. And if you imprison the mind, you imprison the body. So at the Council of Nicaea, they came together 325 years after Jesus died, had walked the earth. These people came together who were great parts of the political power, because at that time there was no separation, church and state. Came together and said, these are the books that we have decided on. Do y'all agree that this would serve best for us to have a unified way that we want to believe, because we cannot have people believing how they want to. We need to control that. So in that, we have the first culmination of the books of the Bible that would turn into the Bible that we see today. So, of course, that was like the foundation of it. Then, the Catholic Church, they had the Bible that has the Apocrypha in it, which are the additional scriptures that you don't find in the traditional, or the Bible that we use in the Protestant Church, like the King James Version. But there were many others before the King James Version. So when Martin Luther left the Catholic Church, he then decided, again, these particular books, don't want that, take it out. Don't want this, take it out. Don't want that. He almost took out the book of James, and he decided to keep it in. Had he, you wouldn't know those scriptures that are in the book of James, because they wouldn't be here, because a person chose to take them out. So when I think about, on down from there, and in particular, one of the main things that I rationalize about is in 1611, when the King James Version of the Bible was stamped, approved, and hailed and heralded as one of the best translations. This was at the very height of slavery. King James himself, of course, being in England, was an advocate of the African slave trade. And so in there we find the scriptures that appear, and they say, slaves, obey your master, letting you know that your reward will not be found here on earth. So don't worry about that. Just worry about what you're going to have in heaven. Don't try to get free. Just stay where you are. In bondage. Bondage of mind, and bondage of spirit, and of course, bondage of your body. Now, if and when the slaves were programmed, our ancestors, when they came over on the ships, programmed within this 400-year period of time to abandon what was their root, abandon their spiritual heritage, which is the real heritage, and adopt another. Adopt somebody else's as your own. And in that, you will have power. By abandoning your ancestors and embracing somebody else's as your own, then you will find freedom. Now, just rationally, now we just got to talk about it. Does that make any sense whatsoever? Does that make it? It does not make any sense. Now I know that the book has a lot of wisdom keys in there. It really does. But it has been mixed in. It's been whipped up for social control. Ultimately, it was Karl Marx that said, religion is the opium of the masses. And when I first heard that, I was like, what? Why is he saying this? But it's so true because it is in religion that you can escape the reality of the fact that you have to take responsibility for your own life. And there is nobody outside of you there to save you. Nobody outside of you to save you. You give your power away to somebody else's ideal of perfection and wholeness and beauty while you abandon your own heritage. Now, we cannot really be blamed because we were programmed that everything that we had and everything that we came from was wrong, which means that we are wrong. Our skin color, our hair texture, the way we talk, our noses, everything about us is bad, while this before us with the straight hair and the white skin is right. Now, my white sisters are amazing because they know so much more that this is foolishness than my African American brothers and sisters. And it is something to think about. And again, I make this video just for somebody, if you are searching, if you have been just thinking about it, I come to say, think about it, research it. It may be your life's path. It could be your life's path this go round to stay in that, whatever you got to work through. That's good. That's fine. But if you are a person like me who's drawn to ask questions and what it is that you want is truth, and you want the freedom to be able to talk to your ancestors and to love on them and know that they loved on you. It is what our mothers and fathers did before they were brought over to the Americas and they were beaten and brainwashed. It takes Frederick Douglass to talk about in his autobiography. If you ever read it, he said the Christian masters were the worst because they would be beating you and quoting the scriptures at the same time. If you watch the Nat Turner story, you see glimpses of how they would use the slave who could read, the one who could read, and of course he could read the Bible because that's all that he had, and they used that. They weaponized it, if you will, to kill off a people's freedom, their ability to rationalize, to think for themselves, to worship for themselves, to celebrate life as they so choose for fear of hell. And the one scripture that has stood out to me the most for many, many years, ever before I ever came to this particular way of thinking and being, thank God I did, was the scripture in 1 John that says, perfect love casts out fear. You know, that particular scripture brought a cognitive dissonance within me when I was in the church, when I was studying the scripture, because I'm doing this, everything that I'm doing it out of fear. Because I'm afraid of going to hell, because I'm afraid of poverty, which I was steeped in. I'm afraid of the devil. I'm afraid of demons. I'm afraid of all of these things that have been packaged up so perfectly in a book to keep me in my place. Perfect love casts out fear. So it's one or the other. If I am living my life, if my religious beliefs, if my spirituality is rooted and based on fear, but then there is a blending of this word love, they are not the same. Love and fear are not the same. They don't have the same end result. The root of fear is not the root of love. And love has freedom associated with it. Love is not controlling. Love is not limiting. Love empowers. Love strengthens. Fear causes one to shrink themselves. Fear causes you to back away. Fear causes you not to trust yourself. I'm going to make another video about the ancestor altar and talking to the ancestors, because this video is already 22 minutes long. I thank you for listening. Of course, this is not for everybody, but if you have stumbled across this, it is my prayer, it is my hope that it would cause you to search, to think if this is right for you. Because you see, someone else is thinking and questioning and has come to a decision to follow the path that is right for her. All right. I'm Lateesha. Be blessed.